Hello and welcome back to Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger. Okay, I won't do that anymore. Just trying to sound attractive and sexy, but end up just sounding creepy as heck. This is Soul Search Sunday with Johnny Tiger, and it is March 28th, 2021. We got kind of a um, uh, close to my heart kind of topic tonight. It's something that I have been trying to work on, and something that I have, in many ways, succeeded, and in some ways still working on trying to succeed. And I'm going to share with you guys because I believe that if for those of you, especially if you are going through this right now, if you live with one or both of your parents, and especially if they are aging parents, you have experienced sometime, probably multiple times a day, but at least once every week, or if you are really Zen and you're some kind of saint, maybe once every month, you experience the urge to just put a pillow over their face and do what Commodus did to his dad in the Gladiator movie. Yeah, yeah, I'm talking about sometimes it would be so nice to just do that to them. And it's normal, okay? It's normal. Sometimes you can be living with your best friend, and I have tried that. I have lived with one of my best friends for about 6 months when I was in high school, and my best friend, due to some family issues, had to stay at my place, and we ended up wanting to murder the heck out of each other. Um, I have experiences, especially with my ex-girlfriend, previous relationship, where I thought it would be nice to live together. And then when we actually tried to stay together, within about a week, we started feeling that kind of unpleasant urges. And with your parents, it's even more so because parents, let's face it, parents are crazy. Parents are crazy, unreasonable people that don't seem to think that we are uh, worthy to be sitting at the table and talk to them as man to man or woman to woman or on any kind of even footing. And that just makes the situation even worse. I have been living out away from my family on my own ever since the age of 17. So I have somewhat avoided a lot of that unpleasantness having to be an adult and deal with aging parents. However, my mother occasionally would come to Canada and visit me, and she would stay with me for a month, 2 months, 3 months, and then it's all during those times that I suddenly realized that I'm not quite as zen, I'm not quite as good tempered, I'm not quite as nice as a person as I thought I was. So as time went by, I got better and better at handling my relationship with my mother when she was staying with me. And I want to share with you some little tips, six little tips that really helped. First, tip number one, how to handle your crazy parents. Tip number one, acknowledge their humanity. Acknowledge their humanity. They're human. It sounds really obvious when I put it this way. Sounds really, really obvious, and it's just like so simple that you think, yeah, of course they are human. What do you think? We are idiots? Of course we know that, but a lot of us, from a very young age, have been conditioned to think that parents are superhuman. We have been conditioned to think that parents, they were the ultimate authority. If the sky was to fall, they would be there to hold up the sky. If the sea was to rise, they would be there to hold back the tsunami. If bad guy come into the house, parents were going to turn into Superman and Superwoman and drive them away. We have been conditioned that they were the ultimate authority and the ultimate problem solver, but they are not. They never have been, and they are not. The only reason they seemed so superhuman before is because you and I were very, very weak at that time. That's all. That's all. It's like those people who train elephant in circus or in Thailand and those countries that use elephant for show. You see the elephant trainer armed with a tiny little stick, like 2 feet long, and you can break it over your knee. It's not a very big stick. But every time they raise that stick, this elephant that's like, can squash this person flat with 1 foot. This elephant, when he or she sees a stick, is going to cringe away and obey every single command. Why? Because when the elephant was a baby, it was used to being beaten with that stick. So it impressed upon the elephant's brain that that stick is supernatural. That stick can hurt me, even though now I am so much bigger, but that stick can hurt me. In our head, for better or worse, a lot of us have been brainwashed into thinking like that elephant for uh, different degrees. We come to expect our parents to be superhuman. And that creates one of the biggest problems in getting along with them. It's because we end up having unreasonable expectation of them. When they become unreasonable, we think they shouldn't be unreasonable. How can you be unreasonable? You're supposed to be the smartest person in the world. You're supposed to be the best at this, the best at that. You're supposed to be as great as Mother Teresa. You're supposed to be as authoritative as the Pope. How can you think that way? How can you say that? But once you realize and acknowledge and remember, they are not Mother Teresa. They're not the Pope. Honestly, unless you are some special guest listening to me, and which would make me really happy. But unless you're someone really, 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 really special, your parents probably weren't even CEO of a company. You probably weren't some high-ranking politician. Your parents are, will always be normal, ordinary people as prone to anger, as prone to unreasonable feelings, temper tantrums, depression, laughter, sadness, all those things as you and I. Once I started to recognize that, and I was very lucky that I actually started recognizing that in my parents from a very young age, because of the kind of abuse I had to go through, and they weren't there to protect me. So I learned at a very young age not to count on them, not to trust them. So once you start recognizing them as just as human as you, probably in some ways not even as successful or smart as you, because a lot of times they didn't have the same education. They didn't grow up with computers. They didn't grow up with Google. They couldn't just go on Google and research things like you and I can. Once you start to recognize that, it becomes a lot easier to forgive them and to understand why they can say some unreasonable and messed up stuff sometimes. Number two, another thing that I came to realize is my parents are mentally challenged. My parents are mentally challenged. So I'm going to tell you this, and some of you, if you are parents yourself, I know you might feel a little bit offended. But believe me when I say this, almost in every case, parents are mentally challenged. Why do I say that? Why, and some people say, how dare you? How dare you say my mom's mentally challenged? How dare you say my dad's mentally challenged? Look, my mom and my dad, they were very smart. They still are in some ways. But as smart as they are going to stand there and call me a child, even though I'm bigger than they are and I have gone further in my life and I am almost 40 years old. They're still going to insist I'm a child and treat me like a child. Now, you tell me if that is not someone who's mentally challenged. Obviously, it's someone who got some kind of mental deficiency that can't grasp that this guy is bigger than you, this guy knows more than you, and this guy is almost 40 years old. He's not a child. My mom is going to stand there and dress me down and give me heck of crap about cleaning the house, even though I already told her I do house cleaning once a week. I told her that multiple times. Every time we talk, she still nagged me about you got to clean the house. You don't want to be so lazy. You got to clean the house. Now that to me is a sign of mental deficiency. I've told you I clean the house. You still tell me to clean the house. Okay? Normal people, people without mental problems, do not do things like that. My father, despite me having won a world-class silver medal in martial art for Canada, still claim to this day that Johnny cannot fight because Johnny is blind. Now you tell me if that is not a sign of mental deficiency. With hard evidence right in front of him, videos all over the internet, he still claims that I cannot fight because I'm blind. These are just examples uh, on top of examples of the kind of messed up, unreasonable, ridiculous things you are going to encounter with your parents. And they are going to drive you crazy. They're going to drive you crazy. The criticisms, the denials, the rejections, the assumptions. Uh, but here's the thing, they only drive you crazy because you still think of them as coming from a place of normalcy, a normality, or even worse, sometimes you think they come from a place of authority, right? They come from a place of authority. So if they come from a place of authority, that means we obviously did something wrong to be criticized like this. But here's the thing, if you go to work and your authority figure, your supervisor, say, hey, Johnny, can you show up for work wearing something else? That shirt is really ugly. Actually, it makes you look really ugly. Yeah, that's going to bug me. That's really going to bug me now because my supervisor, the authority figure that my work depend on, says that. I'm going to take him seriously. I'm going to go home. I'm going to go out and buy a new shirt right after work. But if I go to work and my slightly mentally challenged coworker said, "Hey Johnny, what's up? You're wearing an ugly shirt, eh?" Well, I'm just going to say, "Yeah, f you." I'm going to laugh about it. I'm not going to take it as seriously from a mentally challenged guy. I'm not going to take it as seriously coming from a crazy guy. So once you start to remember, acknowledge, and recognize that your parent might be mentally challenged, might be mentally deficient, for them to say these things, then it make it a lot easier to forgive and forget and laugh things off and just turn a deaf ear, let it wash over your back. Funny enough, my mom was the one that taught me this because I used to get really, really hurt whenever I talked to my dad. Because my dad would criticize me. Everything I did, everything I did, my dad would criticize me. I wasn't making enough money. I wasn't working enough hours. I wasn't uh, uh, doing this right. I wasn't doing that right. When he was my age, he was already a millionaire. Blah 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 blah. And my mom, one day said, you know your dad has dementia, right? You know your dad is not right in the head. So why would you let the words of a crazy man, a crazy person, bug you that much? And I thought, she's right, because he does have dementia, he does have Alzheimer's. So why would I take that seriously? Why should I take that seriously? Why, if I have being a counselor myself, I meet enough people with mental problem, and if my clients were to show up and say something rude to me, I don't pay attention to that. I just laugh it off. It's my client. It's my client. They're my client because they have some problem. So it's okay. It's okay for them to be rude to me. So from that day on, I started whenever my whatever my father said started to bug me, I started saying, it's okay. It's crazy. Just a crazy guy. Crazy old guy. Crazy old ridiculous guy. Crazy old ridiculous stupid guy. I just keep adding words onto it. Keep adding descriptors onto it. And it doesn't bother me. Now he can say a lot of things. Sometimes it still hurt a little bit, but for the most part, I can let that wash over me. I'm like a rock in the ocean. I can let the waves just wash over me as long as I keep reminding myself, it's just a crazy old man. It's okay. It's okay. Number three. This one is perhaps one of the hardest thing to do, and I understand it's really really difficult, but it's one of the easiest, one of the best way to fix uh, parental relationship when you have to deal with aging parent, which is forget about equality. Forget about equality. You're not going to get it. Okay? You're not going to get it. You're dealing with someone who is human, who is human enough to be unreasonable. Going by our previous 2 points, you're dealing with someone who is obviously human. You're dealing with someone who is mentally challenged. You're dealing with an old, aging, mentally challenged human who, by the way, wiped your butt when you uh, crapped in your diaper when you were a child, who spanked your bottom when they didn't like what you were doing when you were a child, who had to nurse you through all kind of illness and seeing you naked, seeing you dirty, seeing you hurt, seeing you take your first drink, seeing you take your first step. That person is not going to give you equality. Uh, in their mind, we are never, never going to be equal to them. So I'm not I'm not telling you that it's wrong to want equality. I'm just telling you that if you persist, if you persist, if you insist on wanting that equality, then that is going to be about half of your argument, half of your battle right there, because it's never going to happen. It just you can be you can be the president of the US, United States, you can be the king of the world. In their mind, you are still that little child with dirty diaper because they are mentally challenged, of course. Forget about equality, and that includes forget about getting even. Forget about getting even. Okay. Um, One of the problems that I see again and again that people come across with dealing with their parents and run into argument is they feel their parent did this, said this to hurt them in the past, and they have not gotten closure. They have not gotten satisfaction. So sometimes they feel justified, and they are justified. Okay, I'm not saying that you're not justified if you do that. You are justified. You are justified to feel angry. You're justified to feel hurt, betrayed, whatever. For what they said, what they did before. But feeling justified, feeling wanting satisfaction will not solve any problem. Will not solve any problem. Because the person who said those things to you, did those things to you, is gone. This person in front of you now may look kind of like that person, but most likely they don't even look like they did now. May kind of sound like that person, may even claim to be that person. But this is an old, mentally challenged person you're dealing with. Okay? Keep that in mind, old, mentally challenged person. Whatever they did, whatever you say they did, whatever you say they said, they probably don't even remember it. They're only agreeing with you because you bring it up. They're probably only apologizing because they think that's what you want to hear. There's nothing whatsoever they can give you now to fix that hurt. The hurt you felt before, the hurt they caused, it's done. Okay? Either it will heal, either or it will be there forever. It's up to you how to heal it, but you're not going to get it from them. Yeah? That person who caused the hurt, gone. Even if it's just last month, it's gone. Okay? It's gone. So if you insist on looking for satisfaction, looking for getting even, looking for closure for things they said or done before, then all I can say is good luck. But uh, it's going to lead to nothing but arguments and troubles and bad feelings all around. Okay? Think of it this way. Think of it this way. When we were little, I'm sure almost every one of us said some really messed up things to our parents. I remember saying some messed up things to my parents. I said things that I know hurt them a lot. I said things that they weren't nice to me, so I didn't want them. I said to my mom, you don't, other people, mom buy them toys. You don't want to buy me that toy. I don't want you as my mom anymore. I want someone else as my mom. I said to my dad, no, you're too mean. I don't want you as a dad. What good are you? You're never here. I said all those things before, and at the time I felt justified. But can you imagine? Can you imagine how messed up your relationship would be with your parent if your parent hold on to those things that you said? If your parent hold on to every bad deed that you did, every mistake you made, and constantly hit you over the head with it when you least expect it. I hope they don't, because if they do, then you probably don't want to live with them. But for the most part, parents don't. Parents, to be parent, one thing that a lot of parents learn to do is they forgive, forget, move on. Kids can quite often, especially teenagers, say all kind of messed up things to a parent, and their parents will just yell at them, beat them up, spank them, or whatever. But parents, they get it out of their system. 10 years later, even if it still hurts them, they will not bring it up uh, to uh, try to look for some kind of messed up justice or closure. So they don't do it to you, and please, if you can, don't do it to them because it's just not going to solve any problem to hold on to old grudges with your parents. Like I said, again, I'm not saying it's not justified, sometimes perfectly justified, perfectly justifiable, perfectly normal, perfectly understandable, but it will not lead to any good result. So since our goal, always keep our goal in mind, is how to get along with crazy parents, then forget about getting even, forget about equality. Yeah. Um, Point number 4, I got a last count. I believe it is point number 4. Point number 4. To deal with crazy, crazy parents is to establish a pattern, to schedule activities. Now, really, really, um, when I have my mom staying with me, one of the things I did that really helped our relationship was every day I specifically set aside half an hour at least, sometimes an hour, but I would always make a point to set aside that time to have a talk with her. And I didn't do it like I didn't go to my mom and say, okay, mom, this is how it's going to work. Every day I'm just going. Every day we're going to talk, sit down and talk at 7, and we're not going to finish until 7:30. I didn't do that because, okay, doing that would just be silly, right? They are not going to want to do it if you just dictate it. What I did was I did by example. Okay, every day after we finish dinner, I would do the dishes and I say, "Hey, mom, I want to sit down for a cup of tea. Would you like to have a cup of tea and let's have talk a little bit? No, that's something I want to talk to you about, or let's just sit down for a cup of tea. Would you like that?" Or sometimes after dinner, I say, "Hey, mom, it's really nice outside. How about we walk down to the coffee shop? I'll buy you a cup of coffee." And then we go down there and we get a coffee, and then I just naturally start talking. Um, so don't hand it to them like an ultimatum. Don't do it to them like, okay, this is how it's going to go. Every day we're going to do this. But do it by action. Slowly ease them into it. And if someday they don't want to do it, that's fine. That's okay. I made the effort. I set aside the time to talk to you. But if I sense that you don't want to talk, if I sense that you just want to, there's something on TV you really want to see, or there's something you really rather be doing, then okay, that's cool. Then I go do my own thing. But at least I made the effort. At least I made the attempt, and I'll try again tomorrow. Tomorrow doesn't work, I'll try again next day. And if it doesn't work, I'll try something else. I'll try okay, now how about we go shopping every Sunday? Now every Sunday, hey mom, Sunday, let's go shopping. Or one thing that my mom and I actually established without even trying was every Wednesday we go down to the Value Village thrift shop. We go to the waterfront and they have a lot of Salvation Army stores and stuff like that. And she loved that stuff. I hated it, but she loved it. So, but I made it a point that every Wednesday when they renew the inventories, I would take that day off and go with her. And of course, I would squeeze in a cup of coffee, like after she's been browsing the store for a couple of hours. Say, hey, mom, I'm kind of tired. Let's go sit at a coffee shop and have coffee. How about that? And then we get our conversation in that way. So trying to schedule activities to do with your parents, because the best way for people to get along, for people to be comfortable with each other, is to have shared experiences. When I say shared experiences, I don't mean just eating together, sleeping together, or live in the same household. I mean actual fun experiences, actual pattern, actual schedules. Go to church together, go watch a movie together, or just have a cup of tea together, go to a coffee shop together, or go out for walks, stuff like that. No, it doesn't have to be something that costs a lot of money, but uh, try to uh, get a sense of schedule going on with activities and conversations that can happen with your parents. Number five, pick conversations that they like. This kind of tie back to don't look for equality, because a lot of time I see parents and kids, the conversation thing fails. Now they can't seem to talk to each other because honestly, you and I, we are from a different generation, and sometimes it's the kind of things that we like to talk about, they don't like to talk about. They're not interested in. I can't sit there and talk to my mom about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I can't even bring up action figures with my mom. I can't talk to my mom about swords and martial art and fighting and video games. Like none of the things I like is something I can talk to her about, but I still manage to get her talking. And this is how I do it. When I want to get a conversation out of my mom or my dad, I find a topic that I know they have something to say about, that they might feel that they're authority about. So, for example, um, I I may be sitting down with my mom for coffee. I'll say, "Hey, mom, when you were younger, did you drink coffee? Or like, when you were my age, did you drink coffee? What kind of coffee did you like? Or if you didn't drink coffee, what did you like to drink back then?" What did and from there I can go on to was coffee a big thing in Taiwan at the time? Like what was it expensive? And what did people like to drink? How about grandma and grandpa? What did they drink coffee or did they drink tea? Uh, and did they sit down every day like we do and have a conversation and have some tea and coffee? I can ramble on. I'm like the master of pointless conversation and questions that I can ask just to get her or just to get my father talking. Uh, it's one of my personal strengths that uh, my a lot of my friends like about me. If my goal is to get you talking, I know how to ask the right question. I know how to uh, ask things that you can be comfortable talking about. So this is something that is very important if you want to have good conversation. Not when I say good, I don't mean good for you. It's going to be mostly good for them, not good for you. But if you want to have conversations that help you get along with your parent, you want to feel like they talk to you, you want to feel like they really enjoy talking to you, get them to talk about things they care about, not things you care about. Okay? People have more fun when they're talking about things they care about. People have more fun when they're talking about subjects that they feel superior about. People have more fun when they're talking about themselves. Okay? I'm generalizing, not everybody, but most people. Most people are, they feel better. They love the conversation when it's about them, when it's about something they care about. Um, my father, for example, if I ask him a question and he's going to go off for the next hour, I don't even have to say anything. I just say, uh-huh, right, right, wow, wow, that's so cool. Wow. And then he's going to talk for a whole hour all on his own, and then he's going to end the conversation. You know, I really enjoyed our conversation. I love talking to you. That was really good of you to call me. Thanks. And that makes me feel good because even though the conversation bored the heck out of me, but in the end, he felt good. That's good. That makes me feel good. So pick conversations that will make them feel good. Pick conversations that they like, and rather than conversation that you like. Last but not least, learn to make them feel useful. Learn to make them feel useful. This is tricky. This one is really tricky because if you overdo it, they are going to start saying that you are depending on them, you are tiring them out, you're taking advantage of them, and you don't do it enough, and they'll say that they feel useless, and it's a really fine balancing act. You know? But think of it as this way: you can cook your own dinner, but ask if they mind washing the dishes. You can cook dinner and wash the dishes, or you can ask if they mind wiping the table afterwards. Something small, something small. You can even ask them like you can say, "Hey, does this shirt look good? This jacket look okay?" Even if you don't care what they have to say, ask them for their opinion. Again, makes them feel good, makes them feel valued, makes them feel like they're contributing, makes them feel, well, less old, less useless, makes them feel young. Find little things. Uh, Most of the time, this is my advice to you. Find inconsequential things to ask them about. Okay? Don't ask them about complicated stuff. Like they don't know. Like if your boss wants you to do something that you don't want to do, and there's a whole bunch of politics going on at work, your parents not going to be able to or even want to deal with that kind of drama. So don't ask them about something so complicated, but ask them something simple, but still makes them feel important. Still makes them feel important. Hey mom, uh, my friend just ask to borrow some money from me, and what do you think? You think I should lend it to them? Okay. In my mind, I already made up my mind. Yes, I'm going to lend it to them, but I'm going to ask you anyway because I value you as my parent. I'm going to hear I'm going to hear what you say, even though I'm not going to obey what you say, but I'm going to let you have your input anyway. So, the 6 steps to deal with coping with crazy parents. First, uh, treat them as human. Acknowledge their humanity. Second, acknowledge their mental deficiency. Acknowledge that they might be mentally challenged. Third, forget about looking for equality. You're not going to find it. Four, establish activities. Schedule activities. Schedule pattern. Establish patterns. And find things to do with them. Five, find conversations for their sake, not your sake. Talk about things they like, not things you like. And six, um, try to involve them to make them useful. Get their opinion, get their feedback, even when you already made up your mind, even when you don't really need their feedback. Ask them, ask what they think. Okay? Once in a while, they might even surprise you by giving you something really important that you didn't think about. I'm obviously not the be all end all expert on dealing with parents. Like I said, some of these things I'm very good at. Some of these things I still am working on. But I hope that by uh, following some of these steps, it will improve your relationship with your crazy, crazy parents. Thank you for checking out today's Soul Search Sunday. We'll be back again tomorrow for Music Monday. For now, have a good night.